What would you do if your summer plans suddenly collapsed, and instead of beaches and fun, you were sent to a lonely farm where nothing seemed exciting? That was the question I asked myself when my life changed in one short week. I thought I knew who I was, but sometimes life pushes you to places you never expected. I was still at university in the city when the problem started. My best friend had promised me a summer trip with sun, sea, and adventure. We dreamed about it for months. Then one afternoon, he told me he was going away with his new girlfriend instead. I felt angry, but more than that, I felt lost. I did not want to spend my summer at home doing nothing, watching other people live their lives while mine stood still. Before I take you deeper into my story, let me invite you. If you enjoy listening to true-to-life English stories like this, please subscribe, share, and leave a comment below. The very next day, the phone rang. It was my Uncle Robert from a small town called Clare Haven on the Irish coast. He had hurt his arm while working on his farm and could not manage all the work alone. He asked me if I could come for a few weeks to help him and my Aunt Clara. At first I laughed and said I was not the right person. I had never done farm work. I wanted to spend the summer surfing and enjoying life, not digging in the soil. But then my mother reminded me that Clare Haven was near the ocean. She even said I could borrow her car, and there were great beaches not far from the farm. Suddenly, my mind began to change. 2 days later, I packed my surfboard on the roof of the car and started my journey. At first, I drove on the main road, but then I remembered something Uncle Robert told me. He said the view from the cliffside hills was worth the longer trip. So I turned onto a smaller road, and soon the world opened around me. Green fields stretched out on both sides, the sky was wide and bright, and the smell of the sea drifted on the wind. I stopped the car for a moment, stood outside, and breathed in. It was fresh, sharp, and alive. Nothing like the heavy air of the city. For the first time that summer, I felt a little hope. When I finally reached the farm, it was late in the evening. The white farmhouse stood alone in the valley, with no other houses close by. A stream cut across the land, and behind it, I saw hills covered with dark trees. My Aunt Clara waved to me from the doorway, and Uncle Robert, tall and thin with his arm in a sling, came to shake my hand. They both looked pleased to see me. But as I carried my bags inside, a sudden thought entered my mind. Was this place going to be my prison for the next month, far from friends and city life? The house was warm and filled with the smell of bread from the kitchen. Their old dog lay by the fire, lifting its head when I walked in. My aunt showed me to a small bedroom upstairs. From the window, I could see the fields below, planted with tall corn that shone red in the evening light. Beyond it, I noticed another farm with a single lamp burning. When I asked who lived there, my aunt's smile faded. She told me it belonged to the Doyle family, new farmers who had brought modern methods that many in the village did not trust. I could hear the tension in her voice, but decided not to ask more that night. The first day of work was harder than I expected. Rain poured down while I picked vegetables, and soon my boots were full of water. My hands were cold, my back ached, and the field seemed endless. I thought to myself, why am I here? What am I learning from this? I wanted something more than mud and silence. I wanted adventure. That afternoon, my aunt asked me to go with her to Clare Haven. We had to deliver boxes of vegetables to a small shop in the town. The drive along the coast lifted my mood. Even though the sky was heavy with rain, the sea looked wild and powerful. Waves crashed against the rocks, white foam rising into the air. For the first time since leaving the city, I felt my heart beat with excitement. After we carried the boxes inside, my aunt went to the bank, leaving me alone for a short time. I walked into a small cafe, hungry and tired, and ordered a sandwich. While I ate, I noticed a girl at the next table watching me. She had dark hair tied back, clear eyes, and the kind of calm face that made you want to look twice. She smiled and asked if I was staying in Clarehaven for long. I explained that I was helping my uncle on his farm, though it was not exactly my dream. She nodded, saying she lived nearby on her family's land but often felt out of place here. Her name was Lena. We talked for a while about the sea, about surfing, about the strange balance between city life and country life. I was surprised by how easy it felt to speak to her. She said she sometimes went to the beach but usually alone, and that made it less fun. I was about to ask her to join me one day when the cafe door opened. My aunt walked in, saw Lena, and her face turned cold. She left without a word. Later in the car, I asked what was wrong. My aunt told me Lena was the daughter of the Doyle family, the neighbors she did not trust. She said they used too many chemicals on their crops and that their choices could affect the land around them. I felt caught in the middle. Lena had been kind, but my aunt's voice was sharp with anger. That evening, back at the farm, I met another new face. A student named Maya had arrived from abroad to stay in one of the tents near the stream. She was cheerful, spoke perfect English, and immediately started asking questions about the farm and the local area. She believed strongly in natural food and the importance of protecting the earth. I noticed the way my aunt and uncle listened to her with respect. I also noticed how easily she laughed and how her blue eyes seemed full of energy. In the days that followed, my life in Clarehaven began to take shape. I worked in the fields, helped deliver vegetables, and watched the waves whenever I could. But inside me, a quiet storm was already forming. On one side was Lena, the farm girl whose smile I could not forget, even if my aunt disliked her family. On the other side was Maya, the student with strong beliefs and a voice that could change a room. And in the middle was me, Ethan, still searching for my summer of freedom, but already pulled into something far deeper. The next morning, I woke early to the sound of rain against the window. The sky outside was heavy and dark, and the fields were silver with water. I went downstairs to find my Aunt Clara already in the kitchen, her hands busy with bread dough. She smiled at me but looked tired. Uncle Robert came in with his arms still in a sling, his face worried. They needed me more than ever, but I was not sure I was ready for the kind of work that waited in those wet fields. After breakfast, Maya joined us. She had slept in one of the tents by the stream, but the storm during the night had shaken the canvas. She laughed as she told us the wind had almost carried her tent away. I noticed how quickly she made everyone feel lighter. Even Uncle Robert, who was usually quiet, smiled as she spoke. Maya had a way of turning problems into challenges, and challenges into something exciting. I admired that, but I wondered if she truly understood what it meant to live here for more than a few weeks. We spent the morning picking vegetables under a steady drizzle. Maya worked fast, her hair wet, her face bright with determination. I tried to keep up, but my back was sore, and I hated the feel of mud filling my boots. I thought about my friends back in the city, sleeping late, going to cafes, planning concerts. Why was I here, bending over rows of wet cabbages? But then I looked up and saw Maya laughing at something Aunt Clara had said, and for a moment the farm did not feel so heavy. In the afternoon, Aunt Clara asked me to drive with her again into Clare Haven to deliver more boxes. This time I hoped I might see Lena. My aunt gave no sign that she wanted me to avoid her, but I felt her silence. As we parked the car, I spotted Lena near the harbor, her hair pulled back, her jacket bright against the gray sea behind her. She was helping her father load supplies into a van. I waved, and she smiled before walking over. My aunt stiffened beside me. She muttered something about going to the bank again and left me standing with Lena. "You're still here," Lena said, her voice warm. "I thought you'd run back to the city after one night in the mud." "I almost did," I admitted, and she laughed. We walked together along the edge of the harbor. The water was dark, the boats rising and falling against their ropes. Lena told me she wanted to leave Clare Haven one day. She dreamed of working in a city, meeting new people, living a bigger life. But for now, she had to help her father on the farm. I asked about the tension between her family and mine. She frowned. "People think we are wrong because we use sprays and chemicals. But my father believes it is the only way to survive. Crops fail, money disappears, and the land is harder every year. We are not villains. We are just trying to live." Her words stayed with me. That evening, when I returned to the farmhouse, Maya was sitting at the table with Aunt Clara and Uncle Robert. They were talking about natural food, about protecting the soil for the future. Maya's voice was strong, almost sharp. She said that farmers who used chemicals were destroying more than they saved. I felt torn. How could I explain to Maya that Lena's family was not evil, just desperate? Over the next days, the rhythm of the farm became familiar. I rose early, worked until noon, and spent the afternoons helping with deliveries. Sometimes I saw Lena in town. She showed me a secret path that led to a small cove hidden behind tall rocks. The sand there was soft and golden, and the waves broke in long, even lines. It was perfect for surfing, though she admitted she never tried. I promised I would bring my surfboard and teach her. She smiled, but I could see a shadow in her eyes, as if she was unsure she could trust that promise. Back at the farm, Maya became my closest companion. She often worked beside me, and in the evenings we would walk along the stream or sit near the fire in the kitchen. She told me about her studies, about her dream of working in environmental projects around the world. She spoke of big cities, but not with longing like Lena. For Maya, the city was a place to fight for change, not to escape into. One night, after supper, a heavy wind rattled the windows. Uncle Robert looked outside with worry. "The weather is turning," he said. "The sea is rougher than I've seen it in years. If it gets worse, the fields near the stream might flood." Aunt Clara's face grew pale. "We cannot afford another bad season." I felt their fear, though I did not fully understand it yet. The next weekend, I met Lena at the cafe in town. She was already there, waiting with 2 hot drinks. We talked for an hour about everything and nothing. At one point, she leaned forward and said, "My father says people are planning trouble. Some students, maybe some locals too. They are angry about the way we farm. He's afraid someone will damage our fields." Her voice trembled, and I felt a wave of protectiveness. I told her I did not believe my aunt and uncle would ever do something like that, but I also knew Maya had strong opinions. Could she be part of something risky? I shook the thought away, but it stayed in the corner of my mind. When I returned, I found Maya outside near the stream, watching the water rush past the rocks. She asked where I had been. I told her I was in town, and she guessed the rest. "You saw Lena," she said softly. I did not answer at once. "She is not what you think," Maya continued. "Her family's choices affect everyone. The sprays, the chemicals, they do not stop at the border of their field. They spread and they harm. You cannot separate them from us." I wanted to argue, but her eyes burned with such belief that I stayed silent. The days grew wetter and colder. The stream filled higher each morning, the ground heavy under our boots. At night the wind howled across the valley, and the old farmhouse shook as if it were alive. I began to sense that something dangerous was coming. One evening, while helping Aunt Clara carry vegetables to storage, I heard voices outside. I looked through the window and saw Maya speaking with a group of young people near the stream. One of them carried a lantern. Their heads were close together, their hands moving quickly as if planning something. When they left, Maya came back inside, her face bright but her words careful. She said nothing about the meeting. The next day, Lena came to the farm. I was shocked to see her standing at the gate, rain dripping from her jacket. My aunt's face hardened, but she did not stop her. Lena asked to speak with me alone. We walked a little way down the path, and she turned to me with urgency. "Be careful," she said. "Something is going to happen. I do not know what, but I hear whispers. Some people want to damage our land. My father is watching at night. Please, if you know anything, tell me." Her words made my heart pound. I thought of Maya, her secret meetings, her fierce voice, but I had promised her once that I would respect her trust. Now I stood between two people, each asking for something I could not give. That night, I could not sleep. The rain hammered the roof, and the stream outside roared louder than ever. In my dreams, I saw waves rising higher than houses, swallowing fields and farms, pulling me under. When I woke, the window rattled and the air smelled of salt. The storm was real, and it was only beginning. The storm arrived in the middle of the night. I woke to the sound of wind screaming around the farmhouse and rain crashing against the glass. The old beams creaked, and the roof groaned as if it might lift away. I ran to the window and saw the stream below, swollen and wild, rushing like a black snake across the fields. The tents near the water shook violently. My first thought was of Maya. I pulled on my boots and hurried downstairs. Aunt Clara was already awake, holding a candle. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. Uncle Robert tried to move quickly, even with his injured arm. "The water is rising," he said. "The stream will flood if this goes on." Before I could answer, the door banged open. Maya stood there, soaked to the skin, her eyes wide with fear. "The tents are not safe," she said. "The stream has broken its banks. We need to move the animals before the lower fields go under." We rushed outside. The rain hit my face like stones. I could hardly see, but I followed Maya and Uncle Robert to the sheds. The sheep were frightened, pressing against each other, their cries almost drowned by the wind. Together we pushed them toward higher ground. Mud sucked at my boots, and icy water rose around my ankles. My body ached, but adrenaline pushed me on. As we struggled, I saw a light across the valley. It flickered in the Doyle fields. My heart leapt. Was it Lena's family? Were they safe? Then another thought struck me. What if Maya's friends, the ones I had seen by the stream, had chosen this night to act against Lena's farm? The storm was dangerous enough. If anyone made a reckless move, lives could be lost. By dawn, the rain slowed a little, but the damage was clear. Water covered parts of the fields, and fences lay broken. We were all soaked, exhausted, and shaking with cold. Aunt Clara brought us inside, wrapped us in blankets, and put hot drinks in our hands. For a moment, silence filled the room except for the dripping of our clothes onto the floor. Then the door burst open again. Lena stood there, her hair plastered to her face, her jacket torn. "Ethan!" she cried. "Come quickly!" Our barn roof has collapsed. My father is trapped inside. The room froze. Uncle Robert tried to rise, but his arm held him back. "Go," he said to me. "Take her. Do what you will." I followed Lena through the storm's wreckage. The fields were a swamp, and trees lay broken across the path. When we reached her farm, I saw the barn half fallen, its roof caved in under the weight of rain and wind. Smoke rose from the ruins where wires had sparked. Lena's father was shouting weakly from inside. I grabbed a beam and pulled. The wood was heavy and slippery, but with Lena's help, I shifted it enough to crawl inside. The air was hot with smoke. I could hear the groaning of the walls ready to fall. I found her father pinned under a broken beam. My arms shook as I tried to lift it. My chest burned with smoke, and my heart hammered with fear. Then suddenly, another figure appeared beside me. It was Maya. She must have followed us. Without a word, she took the other side of the beam. Together we heaved with all our strength. At last it lifted, just enough for Lena to pull her father clear. We dragged him outside as the barn finally collapsed in a storm of sparks and flames. We lay in the mud, coughing, soaked, but alive. Lena held her father's hand, tears mixing with the rain. She looked at Maya with shock, then gratitude. For a long time, none of us spoke. Later that day, when the storm had passed and the valley was quiet again, we sat together in the Doyle kitchen. The air smelled of smoke and damp clothes. Lena's father rested in a chair, bruised but safe. He reached out his hand to Maya. "I judged too quickly," he said. "You saved my life. I will not forget it." Maya looked at him with tired eyes. "I only did what anyone would do," she replied. "But please, think about the future of this land. It matters to all of us." There was no anger in her voice now, only exhaustion and hope. That evening, I walked outside alone. The valley was calm, washed clean by the storm. The streams still ran high, but the air was fresh, and the sky glowed red with sunset. I thought of everything that had happened, the lies, the secrets, the fear, the danger. I thought of Lena's trust and Maya's courage. And I thought about myself, about how much I had changed. When I first came here, I only wanted freedom and fun. Now I knew freedom meant more than surfing or empty days. It meant standing for something, choosing when to act, and learning who you truly are. In the days that followed, the farms worked together to repair the damage. Fences were rebuilt, animals rescued, and tools shared. The anger between the families softened, at least for now. I often saw Lena at the cove, her laughter stronger after everything she had faced. I also walked many times with Maya, her voice calm but full of determination about the future. I knew I could not stay in Clare Haven forever. My studies were waiting, and the city would soon call me back. But I also knew I would never forget this summer. It was the summer of storms, of choices, and of the farm girl who changed everything. When I finally packed my surfboard and bags, Aunt Clara hugged me tightly. "You came here unwilling," she said, "but you leave stronger. That is what life does. It surprises us." As I drove away, I looked back once more at the valley. The farms, the stream, the cove, the hills, all were silent now, holding the memory of rain and wind. I smiled because I understood something new. Life is not about perfect plans or easy summers. It is about the people we meet, the choices we make, and the storms we survive together. And sometimes, when we least expect it, a farm girl teaches us who we really are. Thank you for listening to The Farm Girl. What would you have done in Ethan's place? Would you have trusted Lena or followed Maya? I would love to hear your thoughts. Please share them in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video so more people can join us in learning English through stories.